Hello, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very pleased and honored that you guys are here with me today. My name is Dr. Daniela Salazar. We are going to be talking today about how to raise resilient children. So, without further ado, let's get started. If you can hear me and see me okay, can I please ask you to raise your virtual hand so I know that you're all tuned in and that you can see me and hear me without any problems? Great. Thank you, guys. So for those that are new to this platform and to Lighthouse Arabia, I want to introduce to you guys what we do. We are a mental health and well-being clinic in Jumeirah. We have more than 30 different clinicians from all over the world, from psychology to psychiatry to occupational therapy and speech and language therapy. We serve all ages from prenatal stages all the way to family and couple therapy. And this is important for you to know because sometimes we feel that, where can I go as a group or where can I go as a family to get support? And this is definitely a place where you can get that. We're also the only accredited center in the UAE that has mental health first aid training. This is the equivalent of physical first aid, but for your mental health, which means that as a parent, we want to learn how to detect if our child is struggling with their mental health. We want to know what to say. We want to know who to refer these cases to. We want to understand what to do when there is a mental health crisis, such as a panic attack, self-harm, suicidal ideation, bullying, a severe eating disorder. So we want to make sure as parents, you are all trained. This training happens once a month at the Lighthouse Arabia for public trainings, but we're also open to doing trainings with school settings, with corporates, if needed. There are 3 types of trainings, and I'll name it now. We have adult to adult mental health first aid, which is we want to help other adults navigate their mental health. Or we have an adult to adolescent training, where as a parent, we want to help our tween, our teen. And then we have teen to teen mental health first aid. So how to help our teens support each other. As you know, teenagers rarely come to adults for these sort of supports. So we want to make sure we're giving them the right information and tools. And we're also the home of various different support groups. So you are not alone in any of the struggles that you may be going through. What are our learning objectives for today? We're going to set the scene, understanding child and adolescent mental health. We're going to define resilience. What does it really mean to be resilient? What does low resiliency look like? So we can identify whether our children are struggling with their resilience. We're going to discuss why low resiliency is happening nowadays. And we're going to go over some of the tips and tricks that you can do as a parent to engage with your children and build their resiliency muscle. So the state of affairs at the moment is quite worrisome, to be honest. There's more and more children at a younger age that are displaying mental health concerns. We might even think, why is a child struggling with depression? They have everything. They have a house, they have food, they have school, they have friends, they have everything to be happy, and yet they're not happy. And there's many reasons. One of them is, our globalization, internet, social media, but also the pressure that they feel with school, with friends, out of society, as well as this sense of immediacy, to respond to people's demands, messages, negative comparisons, of course. The values that we see on TV, on social media, are likely to be linked to sex and consumerism. And so the values that we're trying to build at home are not very much aligned with the values that they're finding out in the world. So that dissonance brings a lot of confusion, and therefore, through confusion and not the right support, they may struggle with their mental health. 1 out of 5 of these young people struggle with their mental health. And what happens is that half of all mental health struggles start in the age of 12, 13, and 14. And I say this because it's a time where there is a lot of pressure, a lot of physical, hormonal changes happening in our tweens, teens. And without the right knowledge or support or the right path, it's easy for them to then get lost and struggle with their mental health. The adults that I see in my practice, when we dig a little deeper, we understand that actually their concerns, their feelings actually started really early on in their childhood, early 20s, early teens, where some of these struggles as adults were present. So it's important to understand that adolescence and childhood are significant developmental stages in our lives, and we need to make sure that we're having the tools and having the skills to promote resilience, but understand young people's mental health. Suicide is becoming more common. It's the second leading cause of death between children of the ages of 15 and 19. And this is caused by the ignorance or the not a lot of understanding of mental health, right? So we want to make sure that we are definitely avoiding that as much as we can. So what is resilience? Well, the term resilience actually stems from the Latin word resilio, which means to jump back, right? We're able to jump back, come back, feel grounded after experiencing uncomfortable emotions, experiencing a difficult situation, having to withstand difficult environmental stressors. So I'm going to read 1 or 2 of these definitions for you. And it's a developmental process where resilience involves the agency and the inner capacity of all ages to call on their internal strengths, to engage with others, and look for external resources to successfully transform stressful situations or adversity into opportunities to learn and thrive. Now, what does this really mean? Is we want our kids to have a toolbox that they can go to come back into the outer world and withstand the turmoil and transform those negative interactions or situations and make them into an opportunity of learning and an opportunity for them to feel ever more confident and thrive. That's the idea of building resilience. Now, resilience isn't necessarily something we're born with. It is a muscle that we develop, and a lot of us can develop that muscle with little things that parents can do at home. Another definition of resilience, it's a process of overcoming the negative effects of risk exposure, coping successfully with traumatic experiences, or avoiding the negative trajectories associated with risks. So it is not the avoidance of risk. It isn't the rejection of risk. It is actually the overcoming of risk exposure. And that's really important for us as parents to know, that a lot of our parenting techniques may stem from an urge of protection, an urge to reject any sort of struggle that our child may go through out of their love, out of protecting them. But we want to make sure that there is a little bit of struggle, a little bit of hardship for our child to be able to trust themselves and feel trusted to overcome any difficult situation they're faced with. Now, something I also want to say is that as we birth our children, they're born with all emotions. However, they're not born with skills or names for emotions, right? So the emotions that they have are here. They hold all the wealth of emotions since they're born, but their ability to cope with those emotions or name them are here. So as a parent, our job for the next 18, 20 years is to actually shorten that gap through our teachings of emotional intelligence and our teaching of resilience and our teaching of social skills. So we are the container, we are the guide, we are the teachers, we are the mentors for our kids. So as a mentor, we need to also self-reflect and think about how are we dealing with adversity? What are our coping mechanisms when we are feeling stressed or when we're feeling anxious? What do we do? Because children do as they see, not as they're told. And so we want to make sure that we are also having that ability to introspect, to assess where our kids are at. So what do we look like when we are having children that have low resilience? What does that look like? Well, there's going to be a lot of behavioral concerns that we want to pay attention to. Kids don't tell you they have anxiety or separation anxiety. They don't have that language, but they do have some behaviors that are quite common when they are struggling with uncomfortable emotions. It may be more tantrums, a more aggressive behavior, trouble sleeping, difficulties in school, anger outbursts, clinginess, over clinginess, distracted, withdrawn, moody, right? It's almost like all of a sudden our child becomes extra these things. They get to have all of these difficulties at one time, but when you find that the intensity of these symptoms, the duration of these symptoms are quite long, or the impact of these symptoms in their life is quite severe, this is where we need to, think about, how can I build more resilience in my child? And as I said, our intentions isn't to hurt our children. We love our kids. Our kids are the most important people in our lives, but because we love them so much, we overprotect them. And so we create this bubble wrapping effect where we don't let them struggle, or we don't let them feel sad or angry or upset, and we become their problem solver, and therefore their problems become our problems. We may call other parents right away, or we may talk to the teacher right away, or we may tell our kids exactly what to do right away so that their struggle and their emotions subside. But when that happens, we're not allowing them to have the skills to think through what they actually want and to reflect about how they're feeling and to potentially come up with their ideas on their own. We're not giving them a sense of trust that they need. A lot of the times, because of this fast-paced world, our kids also have a sense of entitlement. I deserve to be paid attention to at this moment in time. Things need to be given to me now. I can't wait a minute longer. And so this overwhelm of information, where things are just given through a message, through a click on the phone, makes their waiting period be less and less and less, and their tolerance to frustration drop. Then we also have the pressure that unfortunately schools sometimes put, right? Or our society puts on our children. Standardized testing, for example, or achieving a certain results in school to go into a different grade level, or our pressure that we put ourselves. My child must go to this school, or must attend this class, or must attend this university. We also put ourselves a whole lot of pressure that definitely doesn't contribute to resilience. The more pressure we put, the more overwhelmed we feel, the more irritable we will be as a parent, the more tolerant we will be to our children's mistakes. Therefore, the less resilient our children will be. And when we have this urge for our kids just to feel happy all the time, I want my child not to feel worried, not to feel sad, not to feel angry. And this not to feel becomes one of the reasons why they feel more of those uncomfortable feelings. We want them to think positively. We want them to think they're enough. And sometimes it's important to address and acknowledge when they don't feel that way, and give space for those feelings that are overwhelming them. So what is the role of a parent in raising resilient children? You guys are not bystanders. We're not bystanders. We need to make strategic decisions, and we need to have objectives in the way that we parent. So I'm going to share with you an international resilience research project that was done a couple of years ago, where they interviewed 1,200 families and children in different countries. And we were wondering, what is the elements of resilience? What really makes up for resilience? Well, the 15 elements is that the child believes that people around them trust them no matter what. So we need to be trusting, loving. Children need to believe that they have limits, right? A house with no boundaries doesn't feel safe for them. They need to know that there is a moment where they're asked to stop, and stopping is okay and it's needed. And so we need to a place that limits them. We also need a role model of how to do things right. And that's when I'm saying kids do as they see, not as they're told. What are the models that we're having for our kids around them? They also want to have their personal initiative, which means that they want to learn things on their own. So if they cry because they haven't done something well, let them know they haven't disappointed you, that they're in the learning curve, that it's okay to not have the answer and to try things again, that they are worthy, that they will get it. And if they don't, it's okay if they don't. They can ask for help. They also need people around them to care for them when they're ill, when they're in danger, when they need to learn. So you are going to be a caring and loving friend and family member. They also need to believe that they can be loved and they can be liked. This, I am lovable. I need to believe that I am lovable no matter what. This unconditional regard that if I make a mistake, I will still be loved by my parents. That if I am rude, I am still loved by my parents. This is not a conditional relationship. I also want to do things that are nice for others. And I want to be of concern if someone is struggling. The child needs to also respect themselves, their bodies, their space, their house, and other people. So all of these values that you see on the side, being empathetic, being respectful, being responsible, being confident, being lovable, are values that are going to be accessible all the time. They're not goals to be met. They're attributes that can be lived by every minute of the day. We're also going to think about almost like a committee that I can go to, a safe place that I can go to when I'm scared. I am going to be creative in the way I solve problems, because if I solve a problem by myself and I know I'm trusted, even though I make a mistake, I will still be loved, and therefore I will be motivated to learn from my mistakes and try it again, rather than feel fearful that if I make a mistake, I won't be loved and I will be punished. The child needs to learn how to control themselves when they're doing something dangerous, and read cues in their environment to know when it's a good time to make a decision, to talk, right? This social awareness is really difficult, especially with the use of social media, where there is no face-to-face interactions and we have a screen that is protective to a sense, and we can say and do whatever we want behind the screen, and we don't have to face the physical consequences of seeing someone eye to eye. So social media does play a little bit of a roadblock in this element of resilience. I love this quote. It is a central paradox of contemporary parenting. In fact, we have an acute, almost biological impulse to provide for our children, to give them everything they want and need, to protect them from dangers and discomforts, large and small. And yet we all know, on some level at least, that what we want our kids more than anything is a little bit of hardship, some challenge, some deprivation that they can overcome, even if it's just to prove to themselves that they can. I found it so useful to read that quote, because that hardship is going to be such a tool that they can come back to and thank you for, because they now can achieve what they want and they now can tolerate uncomfortable feelings. So these resiliency steps or characteristics can be broken down into 3 categories. The child knowing what they are, the child knowing that they have resources, and the child knowing that they can do stuff. They can ask for help. They can be sad. They can struggle, right? But this requires a lot of patience and courage from both the parent and the child, especially in their tween teenage years. It requires a lot of patience from us and the belief that our kids are good. They're good people, and you are a good parent. Just because you raised your voice, just because you made a mistake, does not make you a bad parent. You are trying your best. You're a good parent. And we made a mistake perhaps. But you know what? Kids and adolescents are they're so great in the sense that they learn quickly and they will forgive quickly too. If we model that, if we model that humility, if we ask for help, if we apologize, right? So as they grow older, not only are we giving them the space for them to learn how to self-soothe, but we're also modeling how we self-soothe. When we have uncomfortable feelings, we lead to 4 very unhelpful coping mechanisms. Number 1, we go into fight mode. We become aggressive. We become defensive. We raise our voice. The second is we flight. We avoid situation. We avoid conflict. We don't talk about feelings because it's scary, it's burdensome, it's frustrating. So there's avoidance. Then we have freeze mode. And freeze mode is when we feel stuck and we are literally frozen because of our distressing thoughts and emotions. This in a child may look like procrastination, may look like laziness, but behind that, there's fear, there's overwhelm. Then we have fawning mode, whereas when we are just people pleasing and we're just agreeing and becoming so agreeable to avoid any conflict. And by the way, these 4 ways in which we respond to uncomfortable emotions are both for adults and children. And guess what? Your children will probably have the same coping mechanism that you do. So whatever you identify you having, this will be definitely what your children will interpret as normal, what we need to be doing. So how do we teach these emotional regulation strategies? Remember, they have the wealth of emotions. So our job isn't to judge a feeling as negative or positive. We judge them as, or we say they're comfortable or uncomfortable, but they're all needed. So our focus is going to be on building emotional intelligence for our children. So we need to model empathy. That feeling mad is okay. That feeling sad is okay. That feeling annoyed is okay. What is not okay, and where as a parent, going to put a boundary is in their behavior. You can feel whatever you want, but we want to make sure that our behavior is respectful. It's respectful, it's empathetic, it's compassionate, it's grounding. So we're going to teach them to soothe via their 5 senses. Let's name 5 things that we see. Let's touch 4 things around us. Let's hear 3 things that are actually in our environment right now. Let's smell 2 things. Let's taste 1 thing. When we do that, we're encouraging them to listen to their bodies more. Because when we have a feeling, feelings are bodily symptoms. They're bodily sensations that become or feel overwhelming. But when we're able to name them and do something physical to ground our difficult emotion, we're going to feel more in control. We can feel more successful, and we're going to actually be able to move past that difficult emotion quicker. We also need to bring some playfulness into the mix. Sometimes we're too serious as parents. We don't make jokes. We want to crack a joke. It's okay. Let's roast ourselves a little bit more. It's okay to laugh a little bit and laugh away emotions and then go back to what really matters. Connecting with the positives of the day. We're so keen on just focusing on the things that went wrong that it just makes us feel like the conversations are going round and round in circles of all the things that are missing and that we have not achieved and we've done mistakes in. We also want to teach the kids this concept of I have, right? I have failed and I have taken. Think about a time where as a parent, you have failed or you have felt like a failure and you're not good. It may be that as a family, you try a new skill and you fall and their child notices that you're falling and you're getting back up again and you're having fun and you're being fair and you are engaging in talking about how making mistakes makes us stronger, and how actually the times that you haven't achieved something in the past made you sad, but it makes you the person that you are today. So we are teaching this growth mindset where if they say, I don't know, we might want to add the word yet. I don't know yet. You don't know right now, but if you keep practicing, if you keep trying to find the answer, you will get to the answer. You're right. You may not know right now, but yet is such a good mindset to have for us and for our kids. And then we have the I have, right? I have a sense of the person that I want to be. I have family values that I want to actually live by. So why are they doing things? This is a big question. Why? Why do we go to school? Why are we kind to others? Why is it that I have to study? Why is it that I have to sleep? Right? Making sure that they understand the purpose and the meaning of everything that they do, and that what we do as a family is also very much aligned with the values we want to exemplify as a family, right? If as a family we value respect, are we living by respect? If as a family we value health, are we all trying to be as healthy as possible, right? Kids, again, are very perceptive to what we say is important and what we do at the end of the day. We want to make sure we're having a value-based living in our household. We're also going to develop grit. Now, grit is so powerful. Grit and resilience usually go together. Grit is the fact that, it's the tenacity behind the decision of keeping ongoing something difficult, right? So it is the ability that we are going to do something difficult every day and we will keep on doing it. So as a parent, you want to tell your child, what was the most difficult thing you did today? And how did it go? What part of this exercise is difficult? When they say I can't, let's actually break that down a little bit more. What do you mean you can't? What part of this exercise is difficult for you? Is it the adding the two numbers? Is it the getting on the bike? Is it balance on the bike? Is it turning the wheel on the bike? What part of this activity is it that you're struggling with? So you are then able to really nitpick that whole task and help your child through that one hard thing. Okay. Interviewing people around the family around things that they have found hard and how they've achieved those hardships is going to be also a good strategy for you as a parent. And then the biggest thing are kids with immediacy. They want everything to happen now, right? So what is discomfort? Can I experience discomfort? Can I just allow them to wait a little bit to get what they want? It might be that you do something like, I'll get you the ice cream after I finish my cup of coffee, and you make them wait. Or can it be, I will take you to your friend's house after I get on the call with my mom, and you actually make them wait. Waiting, everything's so immediate. So we're going to put them in these uncomfortable situations. We're going to let them sit in discomfort, right? And it's okay to be bored as you wait and confused as you wait and frustrated as you wait. It's okay. And you're still going to wait. Life is about waiting patiently. We're playing the long game. We're not playing the short game. So we're not going to jump that obstacle. We're not going to jump and give them things as we could easily. We're going to let them be upset. Now, this is where, as a parent, we need to take deep breaths, because now it's about us being tolerant to their upsetness. That's the hard bit, really. As a parent, can I tolerate their discomfort? Can I understand that I'm still a good parent if my child is in discomfort? So as a parent that is working long hours, as we all are in Dubai, let's make sure you don't feel like you have to do this alone. You're not alone. There's a big community out there that is always waiting for you with their arms wide open to help you come back to these principles of your child is good. You are good. You're trying your best. It's okay if we make mistakes. The repairing is the most important. How do we repair as a parent? This idea that you need to have a balance between work and life is a myth. It's never going to be balanced. There's always going to be times where work may be taking up more than life, or life is taking more than work. And so we need to understand that if we're looking for that balance, we're going to live in frustration. If we accept that there is no balance and address that there is the seasons where work is taking a little bit more priority or life is taking a little bit more priority, then you'll be able to bring a bit more compassion and realism into your parenting. Parent guilt is huge. We need to dissect that. And we need to dissect that perhaps with a professional to help you understand where it comes from and how to deal with that. Quality over quality, guys. This isn't about spending a whole day with your child. This is about 10 minutes where there is no distractions and your intention is to be present. And it can be anytime. It can be in the car, it can be at night, it can be on the way to school, it can be as they're having breakfast, it may be on their way to rugby practice. It doesn't matter. But it is the idea of just being present in that day. When we are rigid about our parenting and we hold our standards way too high and we consider that there needs to be balance everywhere, it results in perfectionism, anxiety, and at the end of the day, amplifying all those uncomfortable feelings where you're living, but you're not really thriving. So in the end, though, this research had a surprising effect. It made me feel more relaxed as a parent. When Ellington was born, I was very much caught in the idea of childhood as a race. The faster the child develops skills, the better he does on tests, the better he'll do on life. Having does this reporting, I'm less concerned about my son's reading and counting ability. Don't get me wrong, I still want him to know that stuff, but I think he'll get there. So this is the ability that, you know what, those numbers, those multiplications, divisions, subtractions, it's important, don't get me wrong, but there are more important things, like their emotional intelligence, like their resilience, like their problem-solving skills, like their self-awareness that is going to take them a lot further than anything else. It's about their character. By not giving children the chance to learn to manage adversity, to cope with failure, we produce kids who have real problems when they grow up. Overcoming adversity is what produces character. And character, even more than IQ, is what leads to real and lasting success. So this is it for me, guys. I want to make sure I'm giving space for questions and comments. So I'm going to stop sharing. And if you have any questions and comments, you can please put them on the chat. I'm more than happy to respond to you guys here for a few minutes. I really appreciate your presence. We have so many different talks that are going to be coming up in the next week. So please stay tuned to all of our talks. If you have a specific question or request, again, you're not alone. Lighthouse Arabia has many different professionals that are going to be very keen and very open to helping you go through them. We do a lot of parenting workshops, a lot of parenting one-on-one sessions. The mental health first aid training courses I cannot recommend them enough. They have them in many different countries around the world, if it's not Dubai. So please look into that as well. So recommendations with ADHD kids. What can I say? So ADHD has a very sensory component. So we want to make sure we're focusing a lot on the somatic grounding, a lot of physical grounding techniques, whether it's through their senses, sports, breathing. It might be that they're releasing anger through punching a pillow, stomping their feet. They need a lot of sensory-driven strategies. Definitely, I'm sure that if you have an ADHD child, you would probably seek occupational therapists as an option. They do a lot of these grounding exercises through their physical body, which is absolutely amazing. So I would say that's one of my biggest recommendations with ADHD. Thank you guys, really. I appreciate all your nice comments and your presence here. What would be the best way to discipline a very sensitive child? He was an only child for a few years and now testing boundaries a bit, also quite anxious. I don't like to be too strict. Yes, so there's a definite need to connect. I think before we put boundaries, I think we need to connect with the child. So it's naming the feeling. I get it. You're upset. You're tired. You're jealous. You're worried. I get that. It isn't easy. That's a big, yucky feeling to have. It's very uncomfortable. And we're going to do this. So I'm naming the feeling, I'm understanding the feeling, and I'm giving you a boundary. And I'm giving you two choices. So you can either sit in your room and you're going to read, or you're going to punch your pillow, or you're going to listen to music, or I can give you a big hug, or you can sit in your room by yourself. Like, I'm giving you choices and you get to pick one of those choices, right? You don't get to act as you want. I'm validating your feelings, but I'm also giving you all avenues on how to self-soothe here. And that's important. Connection and firm limits. So food allergies, I would go to a feeding specialist. There's some psychologists that are feeding specialists, or occupational therapy might be a really good idea to understand that sensory need of your child. Unless you've already been to a pediatrician and they've given you other ways of treatment, I would say occupational therapy or a feeding specialist of a psychologist might be your answer. Great, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have an amazing afternoon, and I will see you next time. We're doing these talks very, very, very often. In terms of sleep training, I would say they need a transitional object. So like a teddy bear, something they like, a little lighter, not lighter, a little lamp in the room, sprays, aromatherapy helps a lot. Reading a book called The Invisible String, where they know that they're always going to be connected to mom and dad, no matter the distance of the room. Letting them know that they're safe and sort of connecting with that safe place at night through breathing. I am safe. I am loved. Mom's next to me. And I would allow you to stay in the room with the child. Do not hug them or cuddle them. Just touch them at night, sit on the bed, wait for them to go to bed, and leave. And the next time you're going to stand in the door and you're going to wait for them to fall asleep, and then you leave. And then every single time you're just keeping a little bit more distance. But of course, we're giving them a kiss and a cuddle at the beginning, and then we do these steps to let them know that they're going to be safe with the transitional object for sure. I don't, but there are various different courses for children. We have a social skills group, by the way, children from the age of 7 to 9. It's an 8-week program, and it is definitely something we have going on. So if you're interested in this, a social skills group, please reach out to our front desk staff. We also have a student leadership workshop for teens to learn how to lead, to learn how to self-regulate. That's going to be for teens, happening in March, April. So stay tuned for that service that we're going to be offering.